Thank you, Amanji and Simarpreet ji. Let me first of all say that I am honored to be accorded the opportunity of sharing my thoughts with all of you today. The topic is on the screen. Is Sikhi relevant in the 21st century, especially for youth? The issue is one of relevance. Is Sikhi relevant in the times we live in? The broader question is religion relevant in the 21st century? So, when the question is one of relevance, then it can be resolved by looking for the compatibility factor. Is religion compatible with the 21st century? Is the 21st century compatible with religion, with Sikhi? To find the compatibility factor, we will need to conduct two tests. The first one is what I call the character test. And the second one is what we can all call the requirements test. In the character test, what we do is we look for the character and nature of the 21st century. And then we look at the defining characteristics of religion and then try to see if they are compatible with each other. In the requirements test, we look for traits, behaviors that are required to live successfully in the 21st century and see if religion contributes towards these traits or hinders them. So, let's begin with the character test. The question we need to look at is, what is the character and the nature of the 21st century? Now, a whole lot can be said about this. Each and every one of you seated in the auditorium here would undoubtedly be able to list out a whole laundry list of characteristics. Technology, the internet, the social media, science, medical progress, development, and so on and so forth. But if you go down to the molecular level, or if you like the DNA level, then the 21st century is defined by logic, reason, and justification. It's an age where logic rules. If you have no logic in your argument, in your stance, or in your position, then you have no position, you have no stance, and you have no argument. So it's going to apply to me. At the end of the day, if you decide that I have no logic in my presentation that I'm making to you, then I would have had no presentation. Second, it's an age of reason. Everything has to be reasoned. We solve our problems in life by reasoning them out. Reasoning involves, first of all, analyzing, and secondly, evaluating information, considering different perspectives, different options, and then making judgments based on evidence and reasoning. Reasoning is essential for making sound judgments and developing effective solutions to the complex problems that we encounter on a daily basis. Reasoning is a tool we need to make sense of the world around us. In short, reasoning is a vital component to living a happy and a fulfilling life. The final basic or molecular character of the 21st century is justification. Justification is a systematic process of applying evaluative criteria to knowledge claims. 21st century living requires that every knowledge claim that's out there be evaluated by you before it is accepted. Not coincidentally, logic, reason, and justification are also the building blocks of science. That is why most of us would like to refer to the 21st century as a scientific century, or at least a century of scientific progress. Now, let's look at the characteristics that define religion. If logic is the molecular structure of the 21st century, the equivalent in religion is faith. You cannot have religion without faith, and you cannot be religious without faith. As for reason, the second molecular structure of the 21st century, its equivalent is belief. Again, you cannot have religion without belief either, and you cannot be religious without belief. If you reason it logically, then your position would be this. If you believe, it means you don't know. And if you know, you don't need to believe. But from the perspective of religion on this side, there is no place for logic and reason in religion because its DNA consists of faith and belief. Finally, justification. I said that justification was a systematic process of applying evaluative criteria to all the knowledge claims that are out there. I also said that the 21st century living requires us to evaluate every knowledge claim possible, and it must be justified. All knowledge claims that are put forth by religion are beyond evaluation because they are revealed. Now, when something is revealed by a higher authority, a prophet or a god, for instance, there is no need for verification, no need for evaluation, and no need for justification. So, going by our application of the character test, the way I've done it, the conclusion is that the character and nature of the 21st century is incompatible with the character and nature of religion. It's akin to fitting a square peg into a round hole, and it will not fit. Let's apply the second test, the requirements test. The question that needs to be answered is, what are the traits that are required to live successfully in the 21st century? Again, at the molecular level. One of the traits is rationality. The other is critical thinking. We are living in a world of sound bites, bandwagons, fads, oversimplifications, misinformation, and tons of disinformation. So, doubting sources, scrutinizing arguments, seeking robust evidence to claims, and at the same time identifying ideological basis behind assumptions is more important than ever. The third molecular trait required for successful living in the 21st century is questioning. The 21st century is an age of questioning. We question everything. And we want answers. And we don't want any kind of answer. We want logical, reasoned answers. Whether you're a parent, a spouse, or if you're one of those who wants to be in the 3% and not in the 97%, you need to be able to provide answers. The 21st century is unkind and unforgiving to those who are afraid of questions and those who have no logical or reasoned answers. If your answer is simply because I'm your father, because I told you so, or because God said so, or enough with your questions, then my humble opinion is that you will fare better in the 12th century and not the 21st century. Gen Z, as we call them, the millennials are sometimes called the questioning generation. Baby boomers, you're looking at one, cannot stand the millennials. Not so much because of the questions anymore, but because, more often than not, we have no answers. We have no answers that are reasoned, that are justified, and that are logical. The final molecular trait that is required for successful living in the 21st century is the ability to undergo a process of unlearning and relearning. Let me put it this way, the illiteracy of the 21st century is no longer whether you can read or write. It is whether you can unlearn the untruths that have been taught to you for your whole life. Now the truth will set you free, yes, but first it will shatter a whole lot of your illusions. The shattering of the illusions is the unlearning part, or rather the pain and the agony of the unlearning. Mark Twain, I think, said it exactly right. He said, I was educated once and it took me my whole life to get over it. So let's look at the traits that are required to be religious. And again, I'm going to be comparing side-by-side comparison, the traits of religion with those traits that are required for successful living in the 21st century. We talked about rationality. The most foundational trait of religion is belief in miracles. You will agree with me that there is no rationality in miracles. Perform prayer A and your cancer is cured. Go dip in a pool and all your problems will suddenly disappear. Something like that. As for critical thinking, the second trait of the 21st century, its equivalent within the parameter of religion is submission. There is no place for critical thought in religion because its DNA consists of submitting to the belief system, accepting the dogma and having faith in the dogma. Whereas in the 21st century, we question everything. The foundational trait of religion is to be unquestioning. Faith and belief will take care of our questions. The faithful and the believing do not question. What about unlearning, the final one? Now, religion is more about fortifying what has been taught. It's about solidifying our existing beliefs. The deeper you ground yourself in those beliefs, the more religious you are. There's a word for this trend, and you probably are very familiar with it. The word is fundamentalism. Fundamentalism is basically the grounding, the solid grounding, in your faith, in your belief systems. So, going by the application of the requirements test, just as the character test we did earlier, the conclusion is that the traits that are required to live successfully in the 21st century are incompatible with those required of religion. So once again, it's akin to fitting a square peg into a round hole. It will not fit. So since both the character test and the requirements test produce negative results, and when both negative results are fed into the compatibility factor equation, the compatibility factor would bound to be low. So the answer to the question that I started with, is religion relevant in the 21st century, is in the negative, because the compatibility factor is low. So now the question is this square peg in a round hole thing a 21st century phenomena? Is the relevance of religion a 21st century concern? And since we are talking about Sikhi, I am going to revert to Sikhi for the rest of my presentation to you. So let's revert to Guru Nanak to get the answer to this question. But first we will need to step back a little. You will all agree with me that the house of religion stands on 4 primary pillars. And let's look at these pillars one by one. The first is ritual. There can be no religion without a prescribed set of rituals. The second pillar is symbols. Every religion prescribes a set of symbols to be worn or displayed in some other way. The third pillar is dogma. Every religion has a doctrine of faith, a doctrine of morality. Dogma is a set of beliefs that is accepted without question, without doubt by a religious organization. And the fourth pillar is clergy. The clergy basically run the organizations of religious worship. In a way, they run the religion. They are the intermediaries between you and the higher authority, whatever it is. Now let's look at what Guru Nanak said about these pillars. Now, some of you are probably aware Guru Nanak has 947 Shabads in the Sikh scripture, the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. He has not spared a single ritual. He critiqued just about every ritual he came across. He critiqued the simplest ritual of plucking live flowers to be offered to inanimate objects. He critiqued pilgrimages, ritualistic beliefs, ritualistic recitations of sacred texts, and ritualistic offerings. In short, he rejected the pillar of ritual. What did he say about symbols? Bunda Santok Sarampar Choli. In this just 2 lines, 5 symbols of the yogis are mentioned. Bunda, their earrings. Choli, their unstitched cloth. Bunda Santok Sarampar Choli, their ankikara peput, the ash. Khinta, their garments, the begging bowl. Kwari Kaya Jukt Danda, the stick that they use as a weapon. All mentioned here. Now, apart from critiquing the symbols of the yogis, their earrings, their begging bowls, their unstitched garments, their danda, he rejected the sacred thread. E Janeu ji ka hai ta pande kat. In short, he rejected the pillar of symbols. He rejected dogma. In the strongest of words, he traveled 40,000 kilometers by foot. That means he never stopped walking for a period of 24 years. Where did he go? All over Punjab, East India, West, down south to Sri Lanka. He went to the Middle East. He went to Tibet, up the mountains, where the Siddhs and the yogis were. What did it go there to do? He went there to tell them that their dogma, their set of beliefs that they accepted without question was the problem. What about the clergy? When someone asked Guru Nanak, what was the root cause of spiritual destruction within the conscience of the human being? When they asked Guru Nanak, what is the root cause of the death of humanity within mankind? Guru Nanak's answer was to call out the clergy of the 3 major religions of India during his period, 1469, by name, and hold them responsible. Kadi, Kood bol malakhaye. Baman, nave jiya kaye. Jogi, jogtana jane and. Tine, ujade ka band. Ujada is a Punjabi word for devastation, for annihilation, for total and absolute destruction. So Guru Nanak said that the clergy of his time was responsible for the destruction of humanity from within the soul of the human being. We had become soulless due to the clergy's objective, which was to control the minds of the masses. For that reason, he was responsible for the destruction of humanity from within humankind. This is what you get when you destroy the pillars that hold any structure up. So Guru Nanak deconstructed the 4 pillars that held the structure of religion during his times. The question was, is the square peg in a round hole a 21st century phenomena? Is the irrelevance of religion a 21st century concern? You probably have already got the answer from what I've been just talking about. Guru Nanak told us that religion was irrelevant in the 15th century. He told us of this reality in 1469. But we have created this, what I call the big misconception, that Guru Nanak founded a new religion, that Guru Nanak is the founder of a religion called Sikhism. Guru Nanak's philosophy is grounded in the notion that I'm not a yogi, I'm not a Hindu, I'm not a Muslim. He rejected religion. So how could he have even dreamt of starting a new religion? Guru Nanak deconstructed one by one, brick by brick, the pillars that hold up religion. So how could he have constructed another religion? Something to think about. But this is the character of the religion of Guru Nanak today. And this is the reason why we are here asking the question. If this wasn't the nature, there would be no need for me to be talking to you at all. So we reconstructed the pillars of religion that Guru Nanak had systematically dismantled. We brought back all the rituals that Guru Nanak rejected. We copied virtually every ritual from other religions, and of course we invented, we modified some and more of our own. You see, when the Christians marry, they exchange rings. When our Hindu friends marry, they exchange garlands, the procedure of Jayamala. When our Muslim brothers, friends marry, the groom side sends gifts. When actors in Bollywood get married, they have flower girls. So we took all of these four together and made it into the Sikh marriage. In other words, Guru Nanak said no ritual, and we took other people's rituals and made them our own. What about the second pillar? Isn't Sikhi all about symbols today? Isn't it all about form over substance? You don't display this or that symbol, you're not a Sikh. Your symbol is not long enough, not big enough, not shiny enough, not visible enough. So you're not enough of a Sikh. What about the third pillar, the pillar of dogma? Aren't we all preoccupied with our rigid beliefs? Do A, B, C and you are a Sikh, and do D, E, F, you instantly become a non-Sikh. And clergy, right from the most insignificant Gurdwara in your village, all the way up to the people that run our takhats, who lord over us, issuing all sorts of instructions from up there, it is all run by the clergy. Every molecule of the institution of Sikhi is run by that same group of people that Guru Nanak said were the root cause of your ujala and my ujala. Every molecule. Guru Nanak critiqued the clergy of the religions of his day, but Sikh clergy are okay. है ना? How can that be? The truth of the matter is that Guru Nanak did not give us a religion or any religion. What he gave us was a spirituality. He gave us a philosophy of life. He gave us a way of life. And I'm glad we have Jaswant Singh Ji here, who's going to come up after me and give you the details of this aspect of things. What is the philosophy? What is the way of life? What it actually means to be a Sikh, living a Sikh. No rituals, no pillars, no dogmas, no nothing, but applying the philosophy of life in your daily life. And Guru Nanak gave us a philosophy that is applicable to all of mankind, all of humanity, irrespective of your beliefs. At the most basic level, Guru Nanak was a revolutionary. He revolutionized the human thought process. He was a humanist. He taught human beings to care for their humanity, so much so that he said that the divine resided within humanity. The divine resided within all of mankind. He was an environmentalist. He said the entirety of creation was a manifest extension of the Creator himself. In other words, the divine expanded into creation. So mankind is now entrusted with this creation to the extent that the goal of life was to live our lives in such a way to leave the world a better place than the one that was gifted to us when we came into this world. Guru Nanak was a feminist. In 1469, the socio-political religious elite said woman was inferior on grounds that she contributed nothing to society, to politics, to the arts, to the music, to architecture, or to anything at all. Guru Nanak said in 1469 era, a woman was superior because she created, nurtured, supported, and enabled every single male who contributed just about anything that allowed the world to progress. He said that the male could never have achieved anything had the female not nurtured him, not empowered him, and then not stood aside in the background to allow the male to get the glory of achievements whose credit was due to the female in his life. The sacred thread, when the Pandit came to put it on, have Guru Nanak adorn, wear it, Guru Nanak said, what is this? Why must I wear it? The Pandit said, everyone in your caste at 11 wears it. And Guru Nanak said, my sister Nanaki is sitting over there, she's 3 years older. How come she doesn't have it? And the Pandit said, it's not meant for females. And you know what Guru Nanak said? If something is denied to one half of humanity, I am not part of it. One more thing. If you read Guru Nanak's writings, you will find something peculiar. You will get the sense that this writing is coming from a female persona. It's written by a female. So Guru Nanak declared himself to exist in the female persona. He wrote his Bani entirely using the female language. So in this sense, Guru Nanak in 1469 was the world's first feminist. He was an inclusionist. Guru Nanak looked at the creator and creation as one. Inclusionist. He told us that mankind was one, that humankind was one. He included everything and everyone into his fold of his philosophy of life, of his spirituality, of his way of thinking. Now, what Guru Nanak was not? He was not a religionist. He critiqued religion. He rejected the religion that he was born into even. So, what Guru Nanak gave us was a spirituality, but we turned it into a religion. What Guru Nanak gave us was Sikhi, and we changed it into Sikhism. That's the philosophy, that's the spirituality, and the other one is the religion. What Guru Nanak gave us was a way of life, and what we have left with us today is a way of worship. What Guru Nanak gave us was a philosophy of life, and we turned it into ritual and dogma. What Guru Nanak told us was to be inclusive, to include the entirety of humanity into our fold. We in turn, using dogma, symbols, and out of form, excluded as many people as we possibly could. So the questions are, how did Sikh spirituality become a religion? How did Sikhi become Sikhism? How did a spirituality that rejected ritual, dogma, symbols, and clergy became a religion of ritual, of dogma, of symbols, and of clergy? In other words, who hijacked Sikhi? I have written a whole book on it. The full story of the distortion and the corruption that Sikhi underwent the last 300 years. The story of how it happened, when it happened, and who were the hijackers. I have three brief points left for me to make, and then I will conclude after that. We said that rationality, critical thinking, and questioning were the skills that were required to live in the 21st century. Now, if you made an effort to understand the messages, the counsel, the advice within Gurbani, you will find that it is constructed, they are all constructed on the basis of rationality, critical thinking, and questioning. And I learned many lessons in rationality, in critical thinking and questioning when I began to understand just the first page, the first pauri of the first Bani of Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Starts off with Socha Sochana Hovai. I cannot cleanse my inner self by taking ritualistic baths. A ritualistic bath can cleanse my external self, but it will not cleanse my mind of its impurities. See the critique of the ritual? See the logic? See the rationale? Pukya Pokna Utri, the second verse. I will never have enough even after I have gotten all that I wanted. Pukya Pokna Utri. We all sort of know when to start accumulating, but we really don't know when to stop. See the logic? See the rationality? Chuppa chupna hovai. Inner silence, which is a prerequisite, of advancement, of progress, of peace, of solitude, of sahaj in Punjabi. Chuppa chupna hovai. Inner silence cannot be attained by outer silence. All of us often sit silent as you guys are, but only you know what a storm of ideas, is raging in your minds right now. See the rationality of it all? The third point on the slide, questioning. The Sikh religious world has a major problem with questioning. Just on the first page of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, there are three major questions. The scripture starts with questions. First page, three questions on the first page. Kev sachiara hoiye, question. Mohon ke bolan boliye, question. Fir ke agge rakhiya, question. First three questions on the first page. And the Sikh world has problems with questions. Pyareo, Guru Nanak's philosophy originated from questions. Now, perhaps some of you are asking, if you, Dr. K, are telling us that religion is not compatible with the 21st century, but spirituality is, then what is the difference between them both? So let me just give you a very basic rundown. There's a big story out there, but this is just a very foundational sort of a rundown. Now, spirituality results in the birth of an authentic self. Let that sink in for a while. Religion creates a conditioned, dogmatic, and a self-righteous self. One who feels superior when compared to those who do not subscribe to his or her dogma. Spirituality is about building humanity and living humanity. Religion is about building a group and living by the dictates of the group. Spirituality is about how I should live, about the meaning of life. Where do I find it? And how do I get connected with everything around me, with nature, with humanity, with mankind, with the divine? Religion is all about what dogma and what rituals I should follow and do next. Spirituality is an agreement with myself about how I can be a better human being today than I was yesterday. Religion is an agreement between a group of people about how our religion is better than that of others and how ours leads to heaven and everybody else is just on their way to hell. If you're asking me now, where can Sikh spirituality be found? Well, it will be found within the messages of Gurbani and it will be found within yourself. There's a conscience in all of us. And the conscience has a voice. The voice of the conscience is the voice of the Creator within. The voice of the conscience is voice of the divine. If you look at it that way and take it. So that's why it's all going to be found inside you. And at the bottom line of everything, spirituality is all about common sense. Where would you find the religion of Sikhism? If that's your calling, that's your thing, that's what you want to do, then you would find it everywhere else. Everywhere else but the messages of Gurbani. Let me just caution you, if you're looking for religion, don't waste your time on the Gurbani. Nothing there about religion. That's all about spirituality. You're not going to find it there. Religion is everywhere but within yourself. We are not born with that. We are born with a conscience. We are born with a voice of conscience, spirituality. But we are not born with rituals and dogmas and religion embedded in us. Now, this is my final point. The theme of our seminar today is Sikhi and Sikh youth in the 21st century, prospects and challenges. So, let me give you what I think are the prospects and challenges for Sikhi as a spirituality and Sikhism as a religion. First, Sikhism, the religion, will continue to be part and parcel of us. It's not going anywhere. It will grow horizontally. It will grow horizontally by adding new versions to existing ones. New rituals to the ton of rituals we already have, and new dogmas to, the long list of dogmas that we carry around with us. Second, because of its reliance on rituals, dogma and outer form, Sikhism, the religion, would be increasingly unappealing to youth, to professionals, to thinking segments of Sikh society. Third, for this group of people, who are non-dogmatic, young professional youth thinking segments, for this group of Sikhs, the answers would lie not in the religion of Sikhism, but in the spirituality of Sikhi. You would, of course, have to make an effort to get to understanding these messages. And I believe this group here, youth, professionals, thinking people, I believe all of you have the intellect, the capacity, and the ability to do that. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Over to you, Amanji and Simarpreet ji.